What is up, everybody? Welcome back to I'm Not Stopping Until You Learn Astrology. This is part number 5. Before we get started, I appreciate if you subscribe, like, comment, and share if you dare. And care, alright? With peace and love. So, what I do in these videos is I make them longer, so I can talk about more topics and help you understand astrology for free. Oops. And there we go. That'll look better. We're going to begin with talking about an astrological inquiry into the NSA. My last video that I uploaded, which was very recent, because I'm uploading one right now, I talked about animal astrology, mainly. And in this video, we're going to talk about the NSA, National Security Agency. Alright, and how the fuck did we get here with astrology? How did we fundamentally become this surveillance state that, we are today, known as America? This surveillance country that is just filled with insanity. So just give me one moment. I actually have to shut my window for a second. So I get over there. Alright, one moment. Alright. I started filming at like 8 in the morning, so it's just been a few hours of filming today. And then what I'm gonna do is probably homework later. In the Hermetic tradition, to name a thing is to invoke its destiny. When the National Security Agency, also known as the NSA, emerged from the cryptographic womb of the Cold War, it did so under a specific celestial signature, one that would shape its hidden nature, its karmic mission, and its recurring confrontations with the boundary between security and liberty. To examine the NSA through the lens of advanced astrology is not to diminish its geopolitical significance, but to reveal the archetypal forces that have guided its evolution. For an agency whose very existence depends upon the unseen, the interception of signals, the decoding of intentions, it is fitting that we look to the stars to understand the patterns written into its institutional soul. I watched the Matrix movie for the first time, I want to say this past weekend. It was like Saturday and Sunday. I was fucked up and somewhere I shouldn't have been. But the 1999 Matrix movie, I've only seen that one. I've never seen the second or third or fourth, which, quite frankly, I don't really want to. So let's talk about the natal chart. Born under the sign of the Scorpionic Deep. The NSA was formally established on November 4th, 1952, by President Truman's classified memorandum. In astrological terms, this birth chart is dominated by stellium in Scorpio, the sign of secrets, surveillance, power dynamics, and the penetration of hidden truths. With the Sun, Mercury, and Mars clustered in Scorpio, the agency was endowed with an innate capacity for investigation, psychological warfare, and the relentless pursuit of that which wishes to remain concealed. Scorpio, ruled by Pluto, the planet of transformation, death, and rebirth, and traditionally by Mars, governs the 8th house of shared resources, covert operations, and the taboo. The NSA's very purpose, to intercept foreign communications, break encryption, and possess what others seek to protect, is a textbook expression of 8th house energy. Alright? Moreover, the agency's chart features a tight conjunction of Saturn's structure, secrecy, and governmental authority, with Neptune, illusion, surveillance, and the intangible realm of signals in Libra. This aspect is the signature of a state-sponsored institution dedicated to navigating the fog of information. Saturn provides the bureaucratic fortress, Neptune the realm of wireless transmission and deception. Libra, the sign of balance, imbues the agency with a perpetual tension, the need to weigh national security against individual rights, a theme that would later erupt in the public sphere. Square. Alright, let's talk about the long silence, and that would be Pluto in Virgo and the gathering of data. Alright, so for its first 3 decades, the NSA operated under the transit of Pluto in Virgo, from 1957 through 1971, and later Pluto in Libra, 1971 through 1984. Pluto in Virgo represents the meticulous, almost obsessive organization of data, the sorting of signals from noise, the cataloging of intelligence. During this era, the agency perfected its analytical infrastructure, building vast databases in obscurity. With Pluto in Libra, the focus shifted to partnerships. The UK-USA agreement and the Five Eyes alliance became sacred covenants, embedding the agency into a web of international intelligence sharing that would later be revealed as both its strength and its vulnerability. Yet the most significant planetary influence of this period was the agency's natal Mercury in Scorpio, operating without external accountability. Mercury, which is the planet of communication and intelligence, placed in the sign of secrecy, allowed the NSA to develop its culture of no such agency. Astrologically, this was a time when the agency's Sun, Saturn, Neptune configuration remained unaspected by any transpersonal challenge, a hidden empire thriving in the shadow of the state. Alright, let's talk about 9/11 and the Saturn return, a reckoning with structure. So every 29 years, Saturn returns to its natal position, forcing an institution to confront its foundational structures. The NSA's first Saturn return occurred in the early 1980s, coinciding with the dawn of the digital age and the agency's growing role in cybersecurity. But it was the second Saturn return, exact in 2011 through 2012, that presaged the seismic shifts to come. Saturn's return is a test of integrity for the NSA. It arrived in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. Essentially a period when the agency dramatically expanded its domestic surveillance powers under the Patriot Act. From an astrological perspective, the post-9/11 expansion can be seen as a response to a brutal transit. Pluto moving through Sagittarius from 1995 through 2008, squaring the NSA's natal Virgo placements. Pluto in Sagittarius represents the clash between hidden power and ideological belief systems. The square to the agency's analytical Virgo energy created an environment of extreme measures justified by existential fear. The NSA, acting as the shadow hand of the state, began its mass collection of metadata, an act that, while rooted in scorpionic secrecy, violated the Libran balance embedded in its natal Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Let's talk about Edward Snowden and Snowden disclosure, a Iranian rupture. So if you're not familiar, essentially, no event in the agent's history was more astrologically resonant than the 2013 disclosures by Edward Snowden. This was a classic Iranian event, sudden, shocking, and revelatory. Uranus, the planet of awakening, rebellion, and the breaking of secrecy, was transiting Aries at the time, forming a tense square to the NSA's natal Sun in Scorpio. Uranus in Aries demands radical individuation and the exposure of hidden power structures. Its square to the Scorpio Sun forced the agency's deepest secrets into the light. Moreover, the Snowden leaks occurred while transiting Pluto in Capricorn was opposing the NSA's natal Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Libra. Pluto in Capricorn represents the dismantling of governmental and institutional authority. Its opposition to Saturn-Neptune symbolized a direct challenge to the agency's foundational secrecy. The revelations did not destroy the NSA, but they forced a restructuring, a plutonic death and rebirth process. The USA Freedom Act of 2015, which ended bulk metadata collection, was the legislative equivalent of a Saturnine compromise, a new structure erected from the ruins of the old. Alright, now I want to talk about the current era we're in. Now I know some of you are going to get mad and say, Neptune's in Aries. Bear with me. We're going to talk about that in the rise of encryption. But for the last, 2011 all the way until 2026, 2025, it's been over 10 years, so about 15 years of Neptune and Pisces. And the NSA is still operating under the lingering influence of Neptune and Pisces. It's a transit that dissolves boundaries between the real and the virtual, the known and the unknowable. Neptune rules the ocean of data, and its presence in Pisces, its home sign, has magnified the agency's preoccupation with encryption, AI-driven analysis, and the protean nature of cyberspace. Yet Neptune also brings confusion. The agency finds itself in a paradoxical position where it can intercept more data than ever, but cannot always decrypt it. This is the Neptune shadow, a mirage of omnipotence followed by the sobering reality of limits. I hate limits. Don't we all? Meanwhile, Pluto's ingress into Aquarius in 2024 has begun to reconfigure the agency's role. Aquarius is the sign of networks, collective intelligence, and technological sovereignty. Pluto in Aquarius promises a profound transformation in how surveillance is conducted, not through centralized dragnets, but through distributed, algorithm-driven systems. For the NSA, this transit will test whether it can evolve from a scorpionic guardian of secrets into an Aquarian steward of global digital infrastructure, or whether it will cling to old models as the celestial current shifts beneath it. And then we conclude with the karmic axis of security and liberty. The NSA's astrological chart reveals a soul driven by the axis between Scorpio, secrecy, power, the hidden, and Taurus, resources, stability, the material. Its mission is to protect the material security of the nation by mastering the hidden currents of communication. Yet the agency's Libra placements, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, the sign of justice and balance, carry a karmic imperative to reconcile its scorpionic depth with the demands of fairness and accountability. Every major crisis in its history, 9/11, Snowden, the encryption wars, has been a manifestation of this unresolved tension. As the outer planets continue their slow dance, the NSA stands at a threshold. The coming Pluto and Aquarius era, with its emphasis on decentralized networks and collective sovereignty, will demand that the agency shed its vestiges of unchecked secrecy. Whether it will embrace this transformation or resist it remains written not only in classified documents, but also in the stars. For an institution born to watch the watchers, perhaps the most profound revelation is that it, too, moves under forces beyond its control. Celestial currents that remind us that even the most powerful of earthly empires are but players in a larger cosmic pattern. Or God Games by the Kills. Good band. Anyways. Yeah. Alright, now let's do this. I was looking for a different tab because I already had another thing I wanted to talk about. Alright, reincarnation. I'm not sure why Docs does this thing where things just automatically reset. It's pretty fucking annoying. Alright, The Serpent's Return. It's a philosophical and astrological treatise on reincarnation, but before we get started, because I am on Meet Me, I'm gonna have to remove people and block people because a lot of men join my stream and they don't talk, and honestly I'm only on this app so I don't feel lonely, because I have no IRLs. So the loneliness epidemic is real, especially for detransitioners like myself. It's just lonely out here. We don't get any support, to be honest. But I will very soon. I'm also trying to sell a bunch of stuff on Facebook Marketplace, since the job market is just poop right now. That's the thing with the boyfriend market too, it seems like it's all poop. Alright, someone said they're gonna pick up this microwave from me that I'm selling on Facebook Marketplace, which is really cool. I'm trying to sell it for like $50. Even though I put this TV I have also for sale. I have an Apple TV thing I put up for sale, and some other stuff that nobody clicked on, but now I put a microwave up and somebody wants it. um, Alright, so let's start here with the soul's incomplete, our preface, so we don't take up too much time. The idea that we have lived before, and may live again, is older than any surviving written record. It appears in the Upanishads, in the Orphic mysteries, in the teachings of Pythagoras and Plato, in the esoteric traditions of every continent. It is a thought that arises naturally from the experience of memory. Not the memory of this life, but a deeper memory, a sense that we have been here before, that the patterns we encounter are not new, that the people we meet carry a familiarity we cannot explain. Alright? Astrology, as a practice of reading the soul's signature in the heavens, has always maintained a tense relationship with reincarnation. On one hand, the natal chart seems to present a snapshot of a soul at birth, essentially a starting point, not a continuation. But on the other hand, the chart is dense with indicators that cannot be explained by heredity or environment alone. The lunar notes, which speak of karmic trajectories, Saturn, which structures the lessons we seem to have been given, Pluto, which marks the wounds that feel older than this lifetime. The chart deeply suggests a soul that arrives already laden, already oriented, already responding to a story that began before this body drew breath. And we're going even further, because when we talk about reincarnation, like if you guys know anything about Vedic astrology or Jyotish, and a big thing they talk about is your Akashic records. And there's also a thing called past life regression therapy, which I really suggest you look up on YouTube, because there are videos, hypnosis, and they call it a therapy. This is an actual therapy, not like, playing with your hormones, but like actually doing the work and meditating and getting off your phone. Anyways, so this treatise is an attempt to articulate that suggestion. It is not a dogmatic defense of reincarnation. The evidence is too ambiguous, the philosophical problems too vexing to permit certainty. It is rather an exploration of what reincarnation might mean, philosophically, existentially, and astrologically. So if we take it seriously as a hypothesis, it asks, what does the chart reveal about the soul's journey across lives? How can we read the karmic imprints that shape this lifetime? And what does the possibility of reincarnation demand of us ethically as we live the only life we can consciously remember? Alright? The title, The Serpent's Return, invokes the image of the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, the symbol of eternal recurrence. But the serpent's return is not a closed loop, it is a spiral. Each life is a turn of the spiral, revisiting old patterns at a new level, working out what was left unfinished, moving toward a wholeness that may never be fully achieved in any single lifetime. The serpent returns, but it returns transformed. Alright, part 1 is the philosophical ground. In And chapter 1 is memory, forgetting, and the shape of the soul, which fundamentally we're all just talking about our brain power at this point. Now this is surface level. But we're also going to get into the subconscious mind. And the ego, something we all have. It all has to do with our minds. Alright, so the strongest argument for reincarnation is not evidential, but phenomenological. It is the experience recurrent across cultures and centuries that we remember what we cannot have learned in this life. Not in the sense of specific memories, those are rarely recovered with any reliability, but in the sense of innate orientations, inexplicable affinities, phobias without cause, skills acquired without training, and the persistent sense that we are not beginners. How did it happen? And even like karma, that's reincarnation within itself too. Like if you say, for example, like me, for example, my mom's dad, my grandpa, who died before I was born, who served in World War II and died from emphysema, started smoking at like age 11, I think, or younger. And it was mainly cigarettes. And how do we see karma and like ancestral karma? I started smoking or vaping when I was 14. And then started smoking cigarettes around age 16 and 17. So not even that far off, a few years older. So this is how it really works, okay? That's what I'm trying to break it down for you guys. So, let's talk about Plato. In the Meno, he uses the example of a slave boy who can be led to geometric knowledge without any teaching, demonstrating that learning is recollection. For Plato, this is proof of the soul's pre-existence. We are not blank slates. We arrive with the sediment of previous lives, and what we call learning is the retrieval of what we already knew. The astrological chart can be read as a map of that sediment. The positions of the planets at birth are not random. They are a configuration that the soul in its prenatal state has drawn toward itself. The chart is a signature of the karma the soul carries, the residues of past actions, past attachments, past wounds. The soul, in choosing its birth moment, if we grant it that agency, chooses the configuration that will best allow it to work with what it has brought. Alright? Uncovering the true soul karma and, digging to the bottom of it. But why do we not remember? Well, we have the forgetting, and it's necessary. To live a life fully, to make choices with genuine freedom, we must believe that this life is the life, that the stakes are absolute, that we are not merely playing out a script written in a previous existence. The forgetting is the condition of authentic agency, yet the forgetting is never complete. It leaks through in the form of the chart, in the inexplicable attractions and aversions, in the sense that we have been here before. Alright, so chapter 2. We're going to go over karma, causality, and the problem of justice. Alright, and I'm just going to make sure really quick. I have a few different chapters in this. Just bear with me, guys. So we're going to go over about 12 chapters. And then I have an appendix, techniques for karmic astrology. So, excuse me, I'm going to have to get some water. Smoker's throat, LOL, but also the moment when you messed up your hormones. The government is messing up our hormones, and they need to stop, but they're not going to. Alright, so, the philosophical objection to reincarnation is usually framed as a problem of identity. If I do not remember my previous life, in what sense am I the same being who lived it? If I am not the same, why should I be held responsible for its actions? And if I am the same, why does the universe seem to have arranged things so that I cannot access the evidence of my own continuity? And we blame the universe for everything that goes wrong. I mean, I blame the universe for transvestitism and me falling into the trap of switching my hormones for 7 months. You know, playing with my life at 19 and not taking my own self seriously because I never felt loved or cared about, and I had all these excuses that led me to fucking up. So that's the real matter. But these questions press against the concept of karma, which is often misunderstood as a system of cosmic accounting. A debt that must be repaid, a punishment that must be suffered. This is a crude and, I believe, inaccurate reading. Karma is not retribution, it is inclination. The actions of previous lives shape the tendencies of this life, not as a sentence, but as a momentum. The soul that has cultivated generosity arrives with a generous disposition. The soul that has cultivated cruelty arrives with a tendency toward cruelty. The work of this life is to recognize those tendencies and to choose whether to reinforce them or to transform them. The chart, in this view, is a record of tendency, not fate. Saturn, in hard aspect to the moon, does not mean you were cruel in a past life and now you must suffer. It means that you arrive with a particular relationship to emotional restriction, in that the work of this life will involve learning to open, to trust, to accept vulnerability. The aspect is a lesson, not a punishment. Now, some people can't even accept that. So the problem of identity is more vexing. The Buddhist tradition, which is the most sophisticated philosophical account of reincarnation, denies that there is a permanent self that transmigrates. What continues is not a soul, but a continuum, a stream of tendencies, habits, and dispositions that cohere into a sense of self, but have no independent existence. In this view, the question, am I the same person as my previous incarnation, is a category error. There is no I to be the same. There is only the continuum, which has expressed itself in different forms across different lives. The astrological chart can be read as a snapshot of that continuum at a particular moment. The positions of the planets describe the tendencies that have been brought forward, the patterns that are most active in this life. The chart is not a photograph of the soul, it is a weather map of a climate, a description of the conditions the soul has brought with it and will work with in this lifetime.